Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the zoning board meeting of September 4th.
In accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, NJSA 10-4-10, and the regulations governing remote meetings, NJAC 539-1.5, I hereby announce that adequate notice and electronic notice of this meeting was provided in a notice dated January 14, 2023, that was sent to the Asbury Park Press, Two River Times, posted on the bulletin board and on the main access door to Town Hall, filed in the clerk's office, and posted on the township's website, www.holmdeltownship.com.
Roll call. Roll call.
Mr. Burkle?
Mr. Burkle?
Mr. Burkle's absent. Ms. Campus?
Ms. Campus? Here.
Ms. Gerhart?
Ms. Gerhart? Here.
Mr. Giampolo?
Here.
Here.
Mr. Luciani?
Mr. Luciani?
Here.
Mr. Afanatopoulos?
Here. Here.
Mr. Hutchinson?
Mr. Hutchinson?
Mr. Hutchinson is absent. Mr. Fragiola?
Here. Here. We're going to seat Mark for the open position. Okay, we're going to stand for Pledge of Allegiance and then a moment of silence to honor our military, police, and first responders. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening, everybody. We're going to change the agenda a little bit because we need our planner here today, and she's backed up in traffic. So we're going to go to item number 2, which is our zoning board annual report for 2023, draft 1. So who's got that information? You do? Yep. Okay, so Marty, do you want to talk about this, or it's all mine? All right, so every year, at the end of the year, we put together a bunch of items. We actually have, and you may have, I don't know, is it in the public have this in their agenda? No, right? They don't have this. Okay, so what we do is we submit a report. What? Yeah, so we submit a report to the Township Committee that talks about the hearings that we had during the year, and sometimes we have recommendations that require change in an ordinance or a suggested change, and they discuss it and they decide whether they want to do it or not. So that's what we're going to do right now. It's the annual report. So I think everybody has a copy of it, so I don't think we're going to need to sit here and read every single item on it. We could skip to the last page, which is our suggestions or recommendations, and there's basically 2 of them, and I don't know if anybody has anything else besides what we have on there, or they want to modify what we wrote there. But I guess I'll read them out loud so the public can hear. One of them is ordinance to change the gate height of 4 feet permitted when fence height can be up to 6 feet. The height of the light fixture on the post is not to be included in the height of the post, which should be in line with the gate height. And the reason we've done that is we had numerous over the years applications where people are putting up gates in front of their homes and their driveways, and the ordinance says 4 feet, and they usually have a column that supports the gate and it's higher than that, and or a light fixture on top. So we're suggesting that that get changed to eliminate all those variances. So does anybody have any comments from the board on any of those? On that? The other item we have is add an ordinance for short-term rental, example Airbnb. So that one, I don't remember that one. Who made that suggestion up? Oh, okay. That's why I don't remember it. So do you want to tell us what that's about?
We don't currently have an ordinance for that, so.
Is this as, are you saying this as a zoning board officer?
If you want.
No, I mean if that's, because you have 2 hats, obviously. So is this the zoning board hat that you're saying, suggesting this? Okay. Okay. Does anybody have any?
Question on the first one. You're suggesting that the fence height should be permitted to be 6 feet high, as well as having a height of a light fixture above that? I'm having trouble understanding the way it's written.
The gate height is only permitted to be 4 feet right now.
Right.
We're not talking about the height of the fence, we're talking about the height of the gate.
So the height of the gate, now we say should be allowed to be 6 feet high?
Correct.
Okay.
So we eliminate people coming in for variances for 4 feet.
So what we should say.
And the post too. And the post too.
Right, but it doesn't say, ordinance to change the gate height of 4 feet permitted to 6 feet, is what we should be saying. When the fence height can be up to 6 feet. Height of light fixture, that's fine. I think you should add permitted and then add to 6 feet, right after permitted.
Oh, yeah, this is just our draft, we'll change the wording.
Right, okay.
Do you want to send her an email with your suggestion? And this is just a draft for comments, and then she'll make a final one and we'll vote on it at the next meeting. Any other comments, or is there something that we might have forgotten to put on that list?
Just clarification on the Airbnb. Is it an ordinance because we have nothing governing people?
Yes.
So we want to put an ordinance and that will govern what they can or cannot.
So the question is, well, I guess it's up to whoever's coming up with the ordinance to figure out what they want to put in.
Yeah, we would have to draft.
Well, that wouldn't be us, that'd be the township attorney. We'll probably do some research and determine what other towns do and come up with something. Doesn't mean it's going to happen, it's just a suggestion, a recommendation. Anything else that we might have left out from last year? Any of our professionals remember anything? Bob, do you remember anything? Okay. All right. Do we need to do a vote on this? No, right? Okay, so next time. All right, so we still don't have Kate. I guess we have to wait.
And we're gonna, as soon as Kate comes, we're gonna go into exec for a few minutes, as a new agenda item, and then we'll come out and start the hearing, so. Just everybody's out there waiting, it's gonna be 5 or 10 minutes at least before Kate gets here. And then we're gonna be upstairs in exec for probably 10 minutes.
You want to take a minute and talk about what the hearing is tonight and how it works?
Okay, and so for the members of the public, obviously, when we get here, we'll read the agenda item. It's just for the use variance aspect only to permit these uses, the medical uses in a zone that currently does not permit that. So it's not a site plan, it's not the site plan. They would have to come back if there was favorable action on it. And all that would be then, discussed, and we'd have to, still obtain a vote on that at that time. So it's a bifurcated application for everybody who doesn't know what that is. So they're just asking for the use at this point, since it's not permitted. And once that happens, they'll come in and do full-blown engineering plans with a site plan showing, whatever they're going to propose at that time. That's substantially similar to the concept that, is before us tonight. But we're not talking about site plan aspects tonight. We're just talking about the use, the potential to grant or not grant this medical use in a residential zone. And obviously the applicant's here with his professionals, and they'll put on their case. There's an objector's attorney here as well who has a witness, at least one witness. Obviously members of the public are here. So all that will happen in due course as the applicant puts on its witnesses. When we're done, up to the chair, but we'll probably then open it up to the public for questions asked to that witness. Questions only, and we'll do that as we go through the applicant's witnesses. At that point, when that presentation is finished, whether it's tonight or a different meeting, the objector's counsel will come up and be able to present his witness or witnesses. Again, they'll be able to be cross-examined after they're finished. And at that point, then we'll open up to public comment when everything's finished, which may be several meetings down the road. I'm just guessing it's not going to be tonight. Pretty sure it's not going to be.
Yes, we will end the meeting promptly at 9 o'clock wherever we are. So if we get, I'll see how time goes and I'll see how the witnesses go. and we may or may not have opportunity for the public to talk, depending on how long their witnesses are. But what I'm going to try to do is, since there's so many of you, each time the applicant's witness is finished, we will open it up to public questions at that time, hopefully shortly. If it takes longer, it takes longer. But at 9 o'clock, it's going to be over and we'll adjourn into another meeting. I don't think this is going to be a one meeting. So this is just, as he said, as Marty said, who's our attorney, this is for the use only. Okay, here comes Kate.
All right,
Don't bother sitting. Okay, so we are now going to go, oh yeah, we got to put a motion. Motion to go into exec session.
I move to go into executive session.
Second.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Voice vote?
Aye.
Okay.
So we're gonna wait, turn that off?
No, we're going to let it run.
Turn the video off? Yes. Video on, recorder on.
Let me bring it up, Marty. I'll bring it up. Thank you for being so patient. We're going to begin in 1 second. I just want to ask the board members and the applicant, do you see anybody here that there may be a conflict with representing, so we can have a correct representation? Mark, anybody? No?
There's no crew with the audience here.
I'm a resident in town my entire life. So
No conflict? Okay, any other conflicts? No?
I know a number of people in the audience.
No, not the audience. We're talking about the applicant.
Okay,
So we're going to start off with Kate to give the applicant, you guys. Yeah. Is everything okay with that? Can the applicant come up and sit down? And we're going to start off with Kate, our planner. We'll talk a little bit about what this is all about, give us a little introduction, and then you guys will be able to begin.
Interrupt for 1 minute. Mr. Simon's here. I'm assuming you want to put an objection on the record, so if you want to do that quick on notice, and I know you sent an email out. I mean, we're fine with notice. It's up to us, Mr. Alfieri, but he sent an email saying he was fine with notice and he wants to proceed, but I'm assuming you want to put an objection on the record.
Yeah, I'm just gonna.
Who you are? Who are you?
So my name is Rob Simon. I'm an attorney with Holmdel Law in Warren, New Jersey, and I'm here on behalf of Joyce Urbanski, 122 Providence Corner Road, Holmdel, owner of Rental Road, Block 21, Lot 10. So the reason why Marty asked in this hearing that I approach and put our objection on the record is twofold. First of all, back on July 16, 2024, I submitted a letter to the board, copy to the applicant's attorney, copy to the board attorney, in which I raised numerous jurisdictional objections relating to proceeding with the application. And those took, in essence, to kind of cut to the chase, really three forms. Number one was the public notice, because notice is jurisdictional, and it's determined whether it's tonight or 3 years from now that the notice is defective. It nullifies all the proceedings and it essentially results in a do-over. And I believe it's very, very important, always, as an officer of the court, and I'm a board attorney in a number of communities in New Jersey, to raise notice issues up front, because no one wants to get caught in those situations way down the road where it ends up being a do-over. So I sent the notice out, and I'll talk about the notice in 1 second. The second issue was that I raised having to do with the fact that this proceeds as a bifurcated application. So in New Jersey, there's a bunch of case law that talks about when bifurcation is appropriate and when bifurcation is not appropriate. And our position, as set forth in our correspondence to the board, is that in this particular case, in this particular application, bifurcation where you're separating the use aspects of the application from the site plan and related aspects of the application is inappropriate. And what the courts say is that when the issues are so intertwined, so that the board is not fairly able to assess the use aspect of the case without looking at the accommodating site plan considerations. In this case, particularly because it's in a residential zone, you have a big residential property next door, you have buffering, stormwater, certainly traffic, and ingress and egress. The fact that the septic system is going to be placed within a couple of feet of my client's property, and I can go on and on, I'm not going to, is that in our opinion, based on the case law, that the site plan issues are so intertwined with the use issue and the appropriateness of the use on this particular property. And as the applicant's planner will explain later on, one of the criteria for use variance, the positive criteria, is particular suitability of the site. And what we say is, how could you possibly, as a board, assess particular suitability of a site to a use when you haven't seen a site plan with all the accommodating elements that you would typically see for a major, preliminary final major site plan application, and that you're not able as a board member to fully and fairly assess the proofs for the use without also looking at, well, what's the impact going to be on the site, on the traffic, on the ingress and egress, on stormwater, on utilities, lighting, landscaping, and the like. So that was number two. Number three, we raised an issue about the fact that the application was incomplete in that architectural elevations and plans were not provided to the board, so that even for purposes of a use, that the board is not able to fully and fairly see what the application is going to look like. And I see actually in front of me, the applicant did provide, in essence, is a uncolored rendering in two versions of the medical office, but there's no floor plan, there's no architectural elevation that shows heights and dimensions in different, north, south, east, and west. And so we believe also that the application, let me get back to the notice and I'm going to sit down. So Mr. Alfieri, I sent him the letter, he revised the notice, he sent out a new notice for tonight's hearing. The problem is that even the new notice is defective for the following reasons. Number one, if you're going to bifurcate an application, and it's under section 76B in the municipal land use law, even if a board allows bifurcation, it says that all the D variances need to be handled if you're going to bifurcate in the first portion of the bifurcated application. There are two use variances required for this application. D1, use variance under 40 colon 55 D-70 D1 because the use is not permitted, and also 40 colon 55 D-70 D6 for the height, because the height in the R48 zone that's permitted is a maximum of 35 feet, and what is being proposed is 45 feet. And if you're 10% over the permitted height, you have to apply for a D6 variance. And if anyone will tell you that, oh no, you don't need the D6 because you already have the D1, that is not accurate as a matter of law. I can say to any number of use variance applications in the state of New Jersey that have been decided by the Appellate Division by the Supreme Court of New Jersey, where the application was for both a D1 and D6 relief for the height, for the excess height. And in this case, the applicant failed to notice for the D6 height application. So if you're going to proceed as a board on a bifurcated basis, which we respectfully contend that you shouldn't, you have to look at not just the D1 but also the D6. And they didn't notice for the D6 variance. Number two, there's a reference in the notice. I didn't see it in the application materials. I just saw it in the notice having to do with the site triangle easement for another property. The other property was referenced. It's in Middletown. It's not in Holmdel. It's referenced by lot and block. Municipal land use law says that under section 11 is that the notice needs to contain the street address for where that property is located. That wasn't included. And I don't know, and under the case law that talks about who you have to notice and when you have to notice, including what's called the Brower case, you have to notice properties within 200 feet of properties that are part of the application, including properties that are reliant on an easement for their use. In this case, based on the notice, the applicant is reliant on this Middletown property for the use, and they provide the lot and block, not the address. But I don't believe that that's part of the application. I don't believe that the owner of that property signed a consent to allow the application to proceed with that owner's consent. And there's no notice as to where it's located, and I'm not even sure, and I may be wrong on this, and I will stand corrected, as to whether there was a property owner's list of properties within 200 feet of that easement lot that should have been notified as to this application. So
You guys have been very
You guys have been very indulgent.
I rely
on my letter as well as my oral presentation here. Thank you for your consideration.
Okay, so,
Just briefly, but,
okay, you want to go first?
just quickly, to set the table, we have, the professionals of the board have taken all those issues, we take them seriously. But we've looked at all of them. So the applicant's counsel's here he can defend his notice. I do know they did do a notice from Middletown for that property. Obviously, the site triangle would be a condition, but it's not part of the application per se. But they did notice from Middletown, it's in his package. Kate will give her answer on the D6 question that you brought up. And from a board's perspective, though, we're okay with from my perspective, we're okay with the notice as long as the applicant's counsel is willing to proceed, and the bifurcation that was recommended to us by our professionals.
And I could just have two
So
brief
wait,
responses.
let's try to get it into some sort of order here. So what we'll do is, before I even let Kate go, I'm going to let you go, but I want you to introduce yourself and your applicant, and then you could rebut what he said.
Thank you. And I'll be brief. Salvatore Alfieri, Cleary, Giacobbe, Alfieri, and Jacobs on behalf of the applicant. Just brief, the case law on notice itself is very, I'm going to condense it into something that's very simple. It simply says that the notice must contain sufficient details of the application that will inform the public of the nature of the application in a common sense manner, such that an ordinary layperson can intelligently determine what the application is about. That's basically what the law is. Our notice clearly gives a lot of detail in terms of what we're asking for, and it does describe the bifurcation. As your board attorney indicates, we did get a property owner's list from Middletown for that property with the site triangle easement, and noticed everyone within 200 feet of that property as well. Thirdly, as it relates to the bifurcation, this board has the power during the presentation of the application to determine whether you need sufficient information. It's something you have to decide. So if you say, I want to see more details about stormwater management, I want to see more details about landscaping, you have the right to ask for that. We have the right under the statute to present a bifurcated application, and that's designed to save an applicant money rather than fully engineering a project before you even know if the use is approved. But again, you have that discretion as the application is presented. If you need information, you can ask for it, and we'll certainly provide it. In fact, your engineer did ask for soil information during his review, and we did provide that. So there has been some give and take with your board professionals. And then finally, we did provide an architectural. If you want a colored architectural, we're not going to finish tonight. We bring a colored architectural. So again, whatever you decide you need during the course of the testimony, we'll provide it. And I'll, in terms of the D6, Kate was going to respond. And she and I have discussed this already in advance, before we received the notice from Mr. Simon.
So basically, you're saying you feel very comfortable that your notice is
We're
okay,
ready.
and you're ready to proceed,
Yes, we
and
are.
there's no risk on your part?
There's always a risk. You never
Right.
know what the court's going to do, but we're comfortable.
Okay. Kate?
I'm gonna just first address the question of experience that in the notice. While I agree with Mr. Simon that in most cases, in any case, experience is not subsumed into a D1 variance. The way that the Holmdel ordinance is written, particularly in the R40 A and B zones, is that bulk standards are assigned to individual uses. For a use that is not permitted, such as this one, there are no bulk standards. There are other sections, buffers, other general sections of the ordinance that may apply. But for example, the typical bulk standards in the R40A district apply only to single-family churches, libraries, firehouses, public utilities, and museums. There's also other standards for things like farms, nursing homes, public buildings, etc. So this applicant requires a D1 variance. The use is not permitted. As part of the board's consideration of that D1 use variance, you may obviously take into consideration all of the physical components of the proposal. That includes the height. However, if there is no D6 height variance technically required, there is no height requirement for a non-permitted use in the R40 zone. I will note that this is mentioned in bottom of page 2 of my letter that's dated 7/12/2024, and I do provide conceptual zoning compliance with the R40A district, which shows you what is permitted for those uses that I mentioned. However, this is just for the board's reference. A variance is not technically required. I would also note that the last comment of my letter, which is number 6, addresses this again, which states there are no specific standards for this use, but the applicant needs to put on testimony about any potential negative impacts or adverse impacts of this use, and that includes anything in the overall bulk layout of structures, massing, building height, impervious coverage, stormwater, etc. So, there is that, in our opinion, that the notice is not sufficient because that actual variance is not required due to the court of this requirements. And this says, I would note that this has come up in other applications before this board, and it's been treated similarly.
Great, thank you very much. Does the board have any questions of anybody up to now? All right, go ahead.
Thank you.
It's
So
all yours.
I'm going to introduce Drew Piscatelli, who's the principal of the applicant, and request that he be sworn in.
Swear to tell the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God. For the record, let's swear our professionals in. You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God. Got the right hands.
Okay.
So, Drew, introduce yourself to the board, please, and advise the board what your affiliation is with this project.
Okay. Again, my name is Drew Piscatelli. I live at 16 Hopbrook Lane here in Holmdel. And my affiliation with this project is that I am the contract purchaser of the property, which is contingent upon the approval of this project. It's interesting to note that I've been a developer for 35 years at this point, and I've never been in front of this board on this side of the ropes. It's always been on the other side, being a resident all these years. And being a Holmdel resident since the 60s has always been in the back of my mind something that I felt that I would never be here unless I felt I had a project that could be a contribution to the betterment of the residents of Holmdel Township. Clearly in the last 50 some odd years, I've seen a lot of development. I've seen the farms that I've played on and hunted on turn into developments, and that's progress. And now my parents live in the same house that I grew up in over in Country Woods on Rocky Top. And this parcel that we're talking about, actually you can see during the winter from my house. Our property is right on the park. Our house is right on the parkway, and this is something that is dear in my heart to bring to the betterment for the community, for our aging residents. There's been a lot of development over the last 5 to 10 years of assisted livings, congregate living for seniors. We have Sloan Kettering across the street from this parcel. Bayshore Hospital has been merged with Hackensack Meridian. We have nursing homes down there, assisted livings. So the age of our residents has increased dramatically since I first moved in here. My parents are somewhat of the example that I use for why this project is needed by the residents of Holmdel. It's no secret, my dad has a little bit of cancer, and he goes over to Sloan Kettering. But then he has to go for follow-up visits to doctors from Sloan Kettering. He's got to go down to Neptune. He's got to go to Hackensack. He's driving all over the place. It's not a good situation for an 85-year-old man with cancer to be driving himself all over creation. This is a logical site for this project. I have taken great pains to come up with the concept and in my mind what I feel is a nice fit with the rural character that Holmdel has and has always had in the past. The inspiration that I've used from the architectural standpoint has been the mansion over at Thompson Park. I've looked at the house across the street from Village School, and those are the things that need to be brought into play when designing a project that I feel is worthy of Holmdel. Is this an efficient, or having multiple buildings on a site, an efficient? No. It'd be great to have one glass monolithic building, one elevator, and one fire system and so forth. I'm going to great lengths to have 2 buildings to make the character fit within the community. Clearly, this is the first site that is seen when you come off the highway, the parkway, southbound at exit 114, and I feel that it should be of a certain character that lets people know what Holmdel's all about. So I'm certainly proud to stand behind this project. And when I've done other testimony in front of towns from Hudson County all the way down to Cumberland County, I've always closed my arguments by saying I would be proud to live next to this project. Well, quite frankly, in this circumstance, if things go according to plan and my daughter goes to college in 3 years, I'll be leaving the Hopbrook house and moving back to Country Woods. And I will be living next door to this project. And it's a project that's going to be within my family, hopefully passed down for the subsequent Holmdel generations to my kids. And when you see people out there managing and running this thing, it's going to be me or my kids. So this is a great project, and I feel that it really contributes something worthwhile to the residents of this great community of ours that we've been watching develop over the last umpteen years. So thank you.
One of the questions raised in the planner's report is to provide some testimony as to the types of medical usage you come to.
Okay.
So here, would you give the board your vision?
Sure. So I have, in my real estate portfolio, I have roughly 7 medical projects. Some are simple like this, and I say simple because they're simply outpatient doctor's offices or smaller, low impact healthcare communities. Other facilities, Other buildings are former hospitals, huge 300, 400,000 square foot buildings with nursing homes and surgery centers and so on and so forth. This is going to be a simple, I call it simple, a simple medical office building where you'll have internal medicine doctors, you'll have some cancer doctors, you'll have all sorts of physicians that would probably be affiliated with Sloan Kettering and Hackensack Meridian. I've been contacted by a multitude of hospitals and large practices that have an interest in coming here. And I could tell you that I'd be more than happy to have any one of them or multitudes of them occupy these buildings. There will not be any inpatient facilities where people will be staying overnight or anything along those lines. It'll be as simple, and I just speak kind of figuratively, in a Monday through Friday 9 to 5 type of operation. Whatever typical doctor's office hours there are.
Okay, and that's nothing else.
Nothing else.
We have the applicant, if you have questions, or the public certainly has questions.
Sure.
How long, or when did you purchase that?
I have not purchased it. I'm just a contract purchaser. Mr. Kipnis
The
behind me.
owner is here tonight as well. He's the seller, he's the buyer.
So you purchased it originally when the farmhouse was on it, and now he's contracting with you to purchase it.
Right.
Other board members have questions?
Okay.
So you made a statement about the hours. Is that something that is going on the record, or you're just saying that you're potentially looking from Monday through Friday, 9 to 5? Because there are doctors that have Saturday office hours.
That is correct, and I'm not going on the record, saying that these are going to be the hours. But we're not looking for a 24-hour round-the-clock situation. I can say that for certain.
Okay. All right. So at this point, if the board members don't have any other questions, I'm going to open it up to the public. So go ahead, Kate.
Sure,
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
This is the item in our report, number 2, talks about medical office use, inpatient versus outpatient. I think point C is exclusively outpatient. Daytime operations. Would you be willing to stipulate that there would not be any inpatient services and no overnight operations?
Yes, I would.
Okay.
Yes, I would.
Just wanted to get that. This is all subject to the board's discretion as hearing progresses as well. The other thing I just wanted to ask is, based on your experience with other facilities, do you have an idea about how many doctors, but how many different practices here?
Yes.
Not asking you to
Right. So each we're hoping to put 2 buildings on the site. I would say that each building will more than likely contain no more than 6 practices per building. Within those practices, though, there can be a multitude of doctors that share the practice. For example, Dr. Sal might only be there on Mondays, where Dr. Drew is there on Tuesdays. So where I might tell you this practice, or you might see somebody come along that has 40 or 50 doctors in their practice. They will all not be there on any one time. So. Correct.
And I will say that
we have been contacted by every major hospital in New Jersey other than Virtual for this site.
My next question is that, so depending on the number of practices, no matter how many doctors are there, the number of employees and support staff, that's not really going to change. And it's like, maybe it would depend on hours, like for example, a large practice looks large, may not necessarily have a ton of support staff as compared to a
That's correct.
That's correct. There's only so many exam rooms. There's only so many reception counters. So that would just be your typical, I want to say skeleton crew, but just your bare minimum doctors. Don't forget, doctors are under a lot of pressure financially now, so they are trying to streamline, become more efficient, and cut down on the number of staff that they have. As we know in the hospitals are now bringing in robots to talk to you. My dad had the stroke. It was at Bayshore, and in comes the TV monitor, and the doctor was from California. So
that's the way
medicine's going.
Just for the board, this comes down to a lot of the number of employees, number of trips in and out, things like that. That's why we're being asked because different types of doctors will have different number of patients every day, different numbers of employees, and I would hope that the applicant's traffic engineer also address that impact.
Okay. Bob, you have any questions? Wait 1 second. Let me see if Bob has any comments, questions.
No, not this one.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, why did you pick a 3-story building? I mean, over like a 2-story? Why do you need 3 stories?
Maximum efficiency, square footage maximization, financial feasibility. When I went to look at the Thompson Park mansion, they have buried their third floor in the roof line. So I just came up with what was typical of that, but it's mostly for financial feasibility and efficiency for the doctors to have the ability to, let's say, on the ground floor have patient access, or the upper floors might be more of the administrative office and so forth, which would not be accessible by the patient field.
If you look at near the hospital in Bayshore, a lot of the office buildings seem to be 2 floors.
Yeah.
And they were
much older. I think Henry West built a lot of those late 70s, early 80s. But yeah, that's true. My other buildings that I own, actually, of the seven, I think there's only one that's a 2-story. Everything is 3 to 5 stories.
Any other board questions? We can still ask questions later on. So
I'm here.
Okay, so now this is a difficult part. So the public will get to ask questions. So you have to restrain yourselves not to make a comment. Comment will be at the end of the hearing. You can say whatever you want at the end of the hearing. But right now, you're going to ask the applicant a question on his testimony. And if you deviate from that, I might have to cut you off. Jason's going to be my timekeeper. He'll give you a 15-second warning for the 3 minutes. I don't know how many people are going to speak tonight, but I'm going to ask for a show of hands. Who's going to want to ask questions so we can get an idea? So 3 people. Okay. Maybe we'll give you an extra minute or so. So, okay. Go ahead. Who wants to go first? Ladies first. Miss, you go first. Come up and say your name, where you live.
Just down the road many cars? How many cars?
We're gonna have a traffic engineer who will provide detail. I'm not sure he's qualified to answer that unless you.
Okay.
I don't really know. I can only tell you this, that when the experts of New Jersey wrote the traffic and parking requirements for medical, they were much more overzealous than we experience in the practical world. I have an entire 225,000 square foot facility that uses about 47 parking spaces. I have a 5 acres parking lot that's empty and chained off. Nobody drives to these facilities. Like I said earlier, the staff that would work at these facilities is a minimal number of staff members because the doctors are trying to get more efficient. I'm sure you go to the doctor like the rest of us, you pull in, you're there for your visit, half hour, 45 minutes, and you leave. So there will not be a tremendous amount of traffic in and out that stays there, for example.
I had a couple of other questions. You mentioned other buildings that you own. Could you give us an idea of where those are?
So I have up in West Hudson in Kearney, 300 and some odd thousand square foot building with its own parking garage. I think I've closed off out of 5 parking decks. I think I have 4 closed off. Except we don't use parking. Cumberland County, Millville, that's another 200 and some odd thousand square feet. And I have acres of empty parking. Acres. I'd venture to guess probably 5 acres worth of parking that's not even being used. Union, I have the entire 5 Points corner. So that's a 400,000 plus facility. And even that, which has drug and alcohol, nursing homes, surgical facility, is a full-fledged emergency room operated by Overlook Hospital. Even that, we don't use all of our parking. So I can only tell you that it's when you see what's in these volumes of books that the engineer experts have portrayed for decades. In today's day and age, it just doesn't really hold much in reality because it just doesn't get as much traffic as you would, I guess, assume.
So anything that's that size, any other development that is equivalent?
I have one of my buildings in Union are roughly that size, and that's like I said, very simple internal medicine. I don't even know what's in there. Internal medicine, pediatrician's office, dentistry, orthodontics, a vein center, a child's counseling center, if you will, for those types of things. But I'm envisioning every building having roughly 6 offices in it. Yeah. Sure.
Okay. Wait, follow-up question? Go ahead.
In answer to her question, you mentioned there will be minimal, it won't stay that long, half an hour or so at the visit. Okay, so, and you keep talking about parking spaces, but I'm listening to you, and I'm not so sure I'd like to hear that somebody's going to be there for 2 hours, rather than having in that 2 hours 4 or 5 people coming through, because I'm concerned about traffic congestion. The other thing you mentioned, people don't really drive here. Well, this is Holmdel. We don't have transportation infrastructure to take people. They are going to be driving, otherwise they can't get to your building. I'm sure most of the client, well, I'm not going to say most, but a lot of your clients aren't coming from across the street. Okay, they're going to come from all over, and that's going to cause trips in and out of that property.
It will. It definitely will. Also, don't forget though.
I'm concerned about hearing about how many parking spaces.
Sure.
I'm concerned about how much traffic is going to go in.
And I can tell you that there will be trips going through there. Like my dad, he takes Uber. He comes from Country Woods. He Ubers over to Sloan Kettering. It's a mile, and then he Ubers back. Yeah, there's a car. But I'm saying the car's not parked there. The car drops him off and leaves.
But I think we have 2 concerns in that.
Parking, but the traffic generation. Sure.
Traffic is going to go in and out.
Sure. Yeah. Sure.
Okay, another question from the audience. Come on up, introduce yourself.
I'm William Barnhaffer. I also live at 111 Road. So I guess my first question is, because we have so much vacant corporate office space in Holmdel currently, and we're trying to figure out what to do with that, did you look at the viability of using some of that existing corporate office space versus building something?
Funny you should ask.
Funny you should ask.
When
Ralph Zucker was first looking at Bellworks, I was his first guy in the door, looking at it. And as you probably know, the didn't go forward with him. And as you can probably know, as you've been visiting the building, if you have been, that the medical facilities have not had overwhelming success there. Multiple doctors have moved into Bellworks and have floundered and have since left. I believe there's only one doctor left in there who's a physical therapist. The Vonage property over by my house is being redeveloped right now for some sort of elder care situation. So when you look at those two projects, that's where the overwhelming office space is vacant. But around town, there's not a whole lot for vacancies. Mm-hmm.
Statement here, but I think there's other executive parts of the
Oh.
about 100,000 square feet of office space.
And there may be.
And there may be, yeah, there may be.
I'm giving you a little latitude with that one. Keep going. You have another question?
Yes. So, in examining this location, did you also look at ingress and egress?
I did.
So you're aware that there's single road, main road going each direction?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So you're kind of putting this in the center of this single lane ingress and egress?
Correct.
So there is really nothing else in the area. So what I'm wondering is, what are people going to do for things like lunch or coffee or whatever people need, deliveries? How are deliveries going to come in and out of this when we have really the roads that aren't going to be accommodated? Wouldn't it be better to put something in the middle of town, Main Street, where basically there are already things that could accommodate? So I'd ask, why would you choose this location when there are other locations in the town that might be able to accommodate your facility better?
Traffic. You have easy access in the property and off the property. You have the Garden State Parkway there. Sloan Kettering is across the street. You have a church across the street from this parcel. The road can certainly accommodate the people. And when you mention deliveries, are you talking about like Grubhub deliveries or tractor trailer type of stuff?
Well,
we're not planning a medical facility. We're talking about doctors' offices. I'm not having a nursing home with laundry vehicles and that sort of thing.
Supplies, it's not residential supplies. This is, basically a little mini corporate park that you're putting in, and it's going to require those types of.
I think you'd be surprised at how limited, for example, the surgery centers. People use their own personal vehicles that are the pharmaceutical reps, that are the surgical supply reps. They literally work out of the trunk of their car. I have loading docks that I've ripped out of the buildings because they don't get used.
You might be.
You will be. When Dr. So-and-so orders, 1,000 syringes, it's going to come from a medical supply guy and probably out of his own personal vehicle.
So you're at 4 minutes. You have another quick question? I could give you a little latitude. Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Any?
I would just ask to the applicant, what is your civil engineer will testify about limiting circulation, things of that nature, and then
Either he or
and then there's also a traffic engineer as well. There'll be
to ask more detailed questions.
After they hear more testimony.
Right.
And that's all going to be
And that's all going to be done during this portion of the application,
not
not after.
And it'll probably be done
And it'll
after,
probably be
too.
done after too, but this time we're talking about this now.
Okay.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Any other questions from the audience?
Oh, Bob? I'm
Oh,
sorry.
Bob, I'm sorry.
Just going to say, Mr. Chairman, that traffic report and anything that deals with traffic, we receive our traffic commission, my office.
Okay.
To make sure that all the concerns of the residents and the standard traffic studies are followed.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sir,
Sir,
back.
in the back,
Because I know you're going
because I know you're going to be longer.
I should hold you to
I should hold you to 3 minutes too.
Aaron Held, I live over at 6 Robin Road, sightlines to the property. You mentioned two buildings, you mentioned 45 feet high. Can you give us any other concrete descriptions about what the buildings might be, square footage, impervious surface coverage for all these parking lots that are required? Can you tell us more about what this project is actually going to be physically being?
I'll leave the parking materials up to the engineers, but from the architectural standpoint, each floor will be about 5,000 plus square feet. The construction of them we will look to certainly mimic some of the rural character landmark buildings that we have here in Holmdel. Again, I use Thompson Park as my main reference. I'm really curious to see what the mansion across the street from Village School looks like when it's all done being ripped up and put back together. Those are kind of the inspirational projects that I looked at specifically.
So about that, 5,000 square feet per floor, that's 30,000 square feet of space on this property?
In total.
Seems like a lot. Seems like a lot.
It's not.
That's it?
That's it, your question?
I was just curious if we knew more about what these buildings were.
We will.
Also, the applicant has provided a concept plan with that information. It's not a fully engineered site plan with grading and stormwater management. The applicant has provided square footage of the building, what number of parking spaces they're proposing, setback, things like that, which their civil engineer will be presenting that as well. So we do know this, what they're proposing. And then the board is looking at that exact proposal. The board's not going to just approve, a medical office building, just what they have come in to ask for as part of this concept plan.
And are those going to be available for the public to see?
They will be presenting it here, and it is always available in town hall. And it's online. It's online.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else?
Anybody else?
Okay,
Okay,
come on up.
come on up.
Try to keep it
as brief as you can.
So we're gonna give him 5 minutes?
I don't know, we'll see. We'll see how.
For the record, for attorneys
representing neighbors that are spending a good amount of money for me to be here, time restriction, subject to section 10 land use law. I'm cognizant of the volunteerism that I see before me.
Well, put it this way, at 9 o'clock it'll all end anyway, so.
It all ends in.
So,
Thank you.
go ahead.
Mr. Piscatelli, a bunch of questions. First of all, regarding this property in Union, what's the address of that property?
It's 1,000 Galloping Hill Road.
And that's in Union County, right?
Yes. Yes.
And with regard to, let's even say that property, are you aware whether the physicians have evening hours or weekend hours?
I don't have any physicians lined up yet with letters of intent. So in Union. Well, Union's a different animal because that's got inpatients in it. So that's a 24-hour facility in Union. It's actually a campus, if I can.
So it's a campus, but you said that the facility is going to be roughly the size of what is being proposed here.
So there's. Let me give you three addresses. It's 1,000, 10, 20, and 1050. Galvin Mill. So it's 3 buildings on the campus.
So
of the smallest of the 2 buildings that do not have inpatient facilities in them, I believe there's only one night that has evening hours till about 7 or 8 o'clock, and that's the pediatrician's office.
No weekend hours?
No weekend hours?
I don't believe there's any weekend hours there.
And of your other medical projects that include strictly medical offices
you're proposing here, where are those located besides Union?
The Union campus has the 2 individual buildings. The other buildings are all much larger buildings than this. It's all under one roof. Small like that now.
With regard to this particular property, did you consider other properties in Holmdel?
No, not for this location. Not for this project.
What about in Middlesex County? Do you consider any other properties in Middlesex County for this project in this location?
No.
And with regard to your comments earlier about you're getting a lot of contacts from almost every hospital. For what purposes? Why are the hospitals all contacting?
The overall inquiries have been for office space to free up facility space in the mothership. For example, Sloan Kettering would like to have more medical facility space and they have just too many doctors' offices. So I'm envisioning, again, I'm assuming this, that somebody like that would rent some office space from us for the doctors to have their actual office, and then free up the offices in the mothership for cancer treatment.
You don't have any type of letter of detail.
No, none.
You're just a purchaser of a contract. You don't even own the property.
That's correct.
So do you have any types of letters of intent or the equivalent expressing written interest in putting a medical office facility on the site?
I might have some emails I can look for.
Just other than some emails, any other interest at this point that you're aware of?
Just phone calls and the like.
And you haven't done any type of formal study, either yourself or commissioning anyone to do a formal study of need for medical office space in this particular location area, correct?
No, incorrect. I did an extensive amount of research.
And when you say research, what kind of research?
LoopNet, CoStar, going to the various projects, going down by the hospital, visiting those doctors' offices, visiting over at Brightview to see what they were planning on doing there for their professionals to visit, speaking with some folks at Hackensack Meridian at the hospital level to see what their needs are and such. A lot of legwork.
Okay, so did any of that legwork include notifying all these people you spoke to that the area where you're proposing putting these medical office facilities is located in the residential zone?
That was never brought up.
And are you aware of the various zones in Holmdel that actually permit medical office use as of right?
I'm aware of several, yes.
And did you investigate either developing raw land or retrofitting or just buying an office facility to create medical 30,000 square feet, give or take, medical office use?
I looked at one building in particular that I think was on the Hazlitt side of the border, to potentially do some medical offices there.
Where was that in particular in Hazlitt?
It's the white buildings.
that border up to the parkway, kind of, I guess, west of
Bayshore?
Bayshore.
Did you put an offer for that building?
No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't conducive.
Why wasn't it?
There were more condominiums. So there was only a couple were available for purchase.
But you couldn't tell us
how many square feet of office building are available in
Holmdel, let alone Middlesex County.
Middlesex County for the first time.
No, I don't know.
And Monmouth County.
In Monmouth County.
So you also in your notice identified a site triangle that's needed
on a particular property. You're aware of that?
I'm aware of this. Yes.
Is that property a property that you own?
No. No.
And so how did you
who owns that property?
I don't recall off the top of my head.
And did you receive something in writing
that secure your site triangle rights for that property?
Nothing in writing. No.
So to what extent did you secure rights, if any, to that property
for purposes of your site triangle?
I don't know what you mean when you're saying secure.
In other words, do you have a written agreement that allows you to use that property for site triangle?
No.
Have you reached out to the property owner as to having that right for a site triangle on that?
Some time ago, yes.
And what was the response to that inquiry?
If I recall, they are trying to develop that property as well, and they felt that they too needed the same triangle that I would require. So they said, whatever we need to do, they would take a look at it when we got closer to what our requirements would be.
You don't have any type of security rights today for that site triangle?
Not today as we speak, no.
Are you aware as to that particular property, whether it is the subject of any litigation at this point?
I think it is.
And do you know what the nature of that litigation is?
I believe it was a builder's remedy lawsuit.
Builder's remedy lawsuit, and there was also a condemnation claim brought for that property?
I'm not. I don't know the details of it.
Are you aware of any, did you do any type of investigation before going under a contract for this particular property as to use variances that have been granted in the past by the Holmdel Board of Adjustment pertaining to property in a residential zone?
I did not.
And you talked about the Sloan, Memorial Sloan Kettering use across the street. That property is in Middleton, correct?
I believe it is, yes.
Do you know anything about that property in terms of what it's zoned?
No.
You're aware that that property is in a sewer service area, correct?
I'm sorry, in what?
In a sewer service area.
No, I'm not.
Are you aware whether this property that you're trying to develop is in a sewer service area?
I believe we're trying to put septics in here, so I don't know if there's sewers available to us or not.
And you're not aware of any other non-residential
development within the 2-3 mile radius of the site, correct?
Well, there's the church across the street. There's the Sloan Kettering across the street.
I'm saying any current recent development.
Well, Bell Works is pretty recent. You have all of the, I don't know how far Brightview is along 35, but that's clearly a massive development.
Did you look at any property in the medical district?
I'm not aware of where the medical district boundaries are.
Just give me a second.
Yeah, sure.
With regard to your comment about nobody drives to these medical facilities, is that based on any type of study?
Experience.
Just your experience and observation?
Correct.
And when you did those observations, were you aware of how many people at that time were working remotely or otherwise?
I'm not sure I follow your question.
Just for the record, you mentioned, before you go back, you mentioned who your clients were. Is it more than one person, or?
No, so I represent Joyce Urbanski.
Yes.
The owner of Red Road Block 21, Lot 10.
Just one person?
Yes.
Okay, just want to make sure. Thank you.
Just for clarification too, when we get to the point where we're going to get comments, which will be at the end of everything, we're going to swear in anybody who wants to speak, except for Mr. Simon. But he can only speak for his client. But everyone else will be sworn in, just so we can complete the record. So we're not picking on anybody when we get to that point. We're just figured I'd say that now.
Okay, Miss, you have a question? Yeah. Wait, come up to the mic and start talking. This is just a question of the applicant. No comments. A question is going to end with a question mark.
Okay, thank you.
Tell us your name.
My name is Adriana Litt. I live at 14 Cardinal Road in New Jersey. I'm the person in the back, in the adjacent center.
Okay.
Okay? My concern, I don't know if it's...
Your question. Your question.
Is, it's okay for you to develop this and everything, but you don't live there. So when people come, the parking on Red Hill Road is atrocious. We all know that. But you say it's not, or it is, it's not.
Question. You're making comments.
Then I'll wait till the comments.
Okay, but don't you have a question specifically? You started saying you live behind him. Do you have a question with that?
I have concerns. That's my house.
So what are your concerns? Ask him a question.
The traffic.
Okay, that's not a question. So do you want to ask him a question about the architect? You want to ask him something the way it looks? That's a question.
No.
Okay.
I have a question about everything else. I have a comment.
The comments will be at the end.
If I could just interject to maybe appease your mind a little bit.
I walked the
property and I walked into your backyard.
I don't know.
I don't know if you're back. I wasn't in your backyard. I was on the property. No, I was in the back of your yard.
And
I saw the trees that are currently there. I don't know if they're on your property or the subject property.
Wait, question. No comment.
But to set your mind a little bit at ease, I had planned on putting a very large vegetative buffer between our property line and your property line. Probably Norway spruces that'll grow to be 100 feet tall. There'll be Rockefeller Christmas trees someday. Certainly you have the toll booth right in your backyard there, which I'm sure you see the light and the noise and so forth from. But we will certainly be conscious of your yard, any lighting that may shine towards your yard, and certainly we would put as much of a buffer there as we possibly can.
I guess it's comments.
Well, yeah, save it for the end. Okay. All right. I guess that's the end of the questions, unless the board has any other questions or professionals, any follow-up questions? Nope? Okay. Continue.
Our engineer?
How long do you think his presentation will be?
Since it's bifurcated, well, the questions are going to be longer.
Well, that's why I'm seeing what we're going to do about that. All right. We'll see how it goes then. I don't know if you could tilt it enough so that it's kind of facing us and the audience a little bit.
Before he starts, we put that architectural up, but we didn't really use it.
Mark it?
Testimony, but we should mark that, I think, as A1 and then mark.
Yeah,
it.
that's true. Good point. I did think of that.
Okay, one is appropriate?
Yeah, you can
On
ask.
the architectural, you'll be.
No, you can ask
Howard,
him.
you have
The
to-
engineer. Yeah. See where they're talking about. When he starts talking about the map, you can ask him what is that.
And then we're gonna mark, you may as well mark this while you're up
Right.
there.
Anything else, or is that the only one?
Looks like two.
There's two behind there? Mark them all, so we're done with that. Can you tell us, as you're marking, what each one is, so we can put it down on the record?
Certainly. The first exhibit I have displayed here is titled Aerial Image, 125.
What letter is that? That's A2?
Correct. This will be-
A2, okay.
And I'll introduce them as I go.
Hold on a
We
second.
still gotta swear you in. So could you
We
tell us
were,
what they are?
we're just doing that for the record. We'll turn the photo over a little bit.
And A3 is going to be,
A3 is site rendering, 125 to 127.
Okay. Now, can you make them, I don't know, all of us will be able to see if you turn it almost even with the walls?
Parallel.
Yeah, parallel with the wall.
Can you see it?
Can you see it?
Okay.
Okay.
That's the best we can.
That's the best we can do for the audience, I'm sorry.
so we're gonna need to swear you in and have you qualified, and then we'll begin your testimony.
I think we got copies of this anyway, don't we?
I do.
State your full name and spell it for the record, please.
Michael Wesolowski, that's W-E-S-E-L-O-S-K-I.
What was the gas station?
And I'm gonna take that off, or sit?
Yeah, you got it. The exhibits are up.
And we're seeking to have you qualified as a professional engineer in the state of New Jersey. Would you place your credentials on the record, please?
Sure. I am a principal engineer of Shore Point Engineering and a licensed professional engineer in the state of New Jersey since 2010. My license is current and in good standing. I provided testimony throughout land use boards throughout the state, but I don't believe this board.
Well, and does the board have any questions, or Mr. Simon have any questions on qualifications before we ask that you accept his credentials?
Mr. Simon?
Board members.
Board members, any questions?
Okay.
Okay, accept.
Thank you. And your office has been responsible for preparing the variance or concept plan that's been submitted in support of this application?
Yes, that is correct.
Yes.
And you're also familiar with the property and the location of the property?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so go ahead.
All right, the first exhibit that I have presented for you this evening again is titled Aerial Image, 125 to 127 Red Hill Road, and we've designated that A2. This exhibit, again titled Aerial Image, is exactly that. It's a relatively zoomed out aerial image of the subject property in the approximate center of the site, also showing the immediate surrounding area. As we know, Block 21, Lots 4, and 4.01 are located within the R40A zone, has primary frontage to the southeast along Red Hill Road, which is also known as Monmouth County Route 52. This road also forms part of the border with Holmdel Township. And as we heard, across Red Hill Road lies the Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center. The Garden State Parkway off-ramp exists to the immediate northeast. To the northwest lie residential properties, and to the southwest exists a large residential agricultural property. In describing some of the existing conditions on the subject property itself. First, those two lots create a combined parcel being just over 5 acres in area. It's a relatively clear open field with mature trees surrounding the perimeter. Topography of the site generally slopes from northwest to southeast, which in this case is planned left to right. We are in possession of an October 2022 NJDEP presence-absence LOI or letter of interpretation. This LOI confirms the absence of wetlands on the property and that no part of the property occurs within a wetland transition area. There are no on-site streams or ditches, and the property does not lie within a flood hazard area or a riparian zone.
Question.
Yeah, go ahead.
We're in the buffer area on the DEP letter LOI. Where did they get their constraints and areas to look at? Were you present when they did their evaluation?
I was not.
Then how would they know what to look at in the area of your project?
The application that would have been made would have been for specifically a presence-absence LOI, where the viewer likely visited the property with its extents delineated and confirmed that no freshwater wetlands or transition areas occurred again on the property or wetlands off the property whose transition areas may have otherwise impacted.
If the board recalls previous application, we had a lot of concern with the environmental and the LOI and absence. And we were asking to be staked out. We wanted a site visit, ensure that the board was comfortable with the determination by DEP. We had some difficulties trying to get the proper areas of the LOI. So I mean, they've got the LOI presence based on what DEP determined was the property in question. But I guess my question is, was it done the way that the board was looking to have this issue totally resolved?
Well, how do we answer that question that you just said?
From the engineer. Apparently, they weren't present to tell them where the property line is.
Is that something that you would want to be there? Is that what you're suggesting?
This is, again, the bifurcated application gave enough information to have this meeting. What I would do if the board acts favorably on this, then I would have my environmental group take a look at it and come up with some comments relative to this concern.
Well, wouldn't that be valid to bring that up now before we get to a point that we make a decision or not? I mean, the applicant, how do you respond to Bob's comment?
I would offer, I feel it's germane to again mention that we have in our possession a valid presence-absence LOI from the department.
I heard you say that, but what about his question that he's asking?
The application that was submitted was deemed administratively complete, technically complete, and an LOI was issued. I see no reason that the validity of that LOI should continue to be challenged.
We could certainly, in the interim, try and get the backup of whatever was submitted in support of it. It was not done by this applicant, it was done by the property owner, so it predates.
That might be. So how old is that? How old is it?
The LOI is what, 2022? So it's relatively recent.
Okay. So do you want to work offline with our engineer as to this issue? Because obviously this is not going to be decided tonight, but maybe you could come back with satisfying his concerns.
Certainly, and I would also add that having not been involved in prior applications on this property, you may have knowledge that I'm not aware of. So I'm certainly willing to work with you to come to a resolution.
Okay. Thank you. Continue. You have about another 10 minutes. Doesn't mean you can't continue at the next meeting.
Moving then to my second exhibit this evening, which is again titled Site Rendering, 125 to 127 Red Hill Road, which we have designated as Exhibit A3.
And this site rendering, how does this compare to the plan that was actually submitted in support of the application, other than it being
You
colored?
read my mind. This exhibit is a colorized rendering of the submitted use variance plan with simply the addition of a conceptual landscaping scheme.
Okay, sorry, go ahead.
No problem. And what I'll do here is kind of walk you through the improvements as you encounter them entering the site from Red Hill Road. First and foremost, from Red Hill Road, we are anticipating a 10-foot right-of-way dedication to Monmouth County. That dedication would bring our half-width to 40 feet, meeting the county's master plan full width of 80 feet. That right-of-way dedication is shown on the plan indicated by this diagonally hatched area following the Red Hill Road right-of-way. And notwithstanding the introduction by Ms. Keller regarding the potential non-applicability of the bulk criteria for the zone, looking at those criteria nonetheless, we did factor that right-of-way dedication into the criteria. Regarding the potential site triangle easement on block 1045, lot 12 in Middletown, I'll briefly defer back to my prior exhibit A2. So that site triangle easement would occur again on that block and lot located approximately here. It would traverse generally in that manner across the curve of the road. Now, that that site triangle easement would be based on the 40-mile-per-hour posted speed, given a 45-mile-per-hour design speed. The encroachment on that property is approximately up to 5 feet. Now, Sure. I'll do my best, John Ray, our traffic engineer, may do a better explanation than myself, but we generally look at the AASHTO and the NJDOT criteria for determining the required site triangle lengths, which are based primarily on posted speed, also factors that are sometimes considered our type of vehicle to be using the roadway, slopes of that road, things of that nature.
But the purpose is so that there is not growth that would impede visibility of the traveling public.
That's correct. Once you've established the length of that triangle, you must make certain that you have a clear view to that end of the triangle. Clear line of sight.
Can you in the future propose that triangle on these plans so we can visually see what that?
Yes, and for our next hearing, I can have that prepared.
So that's not part of the process by the condition.
That, yeah, we would have to, if the board were to approve this application, we would have, a condition of approval is we would have to obtain that site triangle, or we could not develop the project.
And one more thing, as far as time, next time, I must have possible copies up here.
Certainly. I can submit it ahead of time.
Thank you.
I think he's referring to smaller versions.
Yes. As you may have heard earlier, we understand that a site plan application may have been submitted regarding that property. Should that be the case, we must assume that they would be required to provide the same right-of-way dedication to the county, which may eliminate the need for that site triangle easement altogether. I'm not aware of the current.
No, it's not. It's just private developer.
Okay, continuing back to Exhibit A3. Again, beginning of Red Hill Road, we have a single driveway located at the property's southern corner. That driveway is comprised of three 12.5-foot wide lanes. We have one ingress lane, and then two separate dedicated, one left turn, one right turn lane. Following the driveway into the site would lead you to our 25-foot wide interior circulation loop from which you would access any of the available parking spaces. Within the property, as we heard, we proposed two three-story medical office buildings. Each of those buildings is a 4,960 square foot footprint. 3 floors comprises a 14,880 square foot gross floor area per building. Each of the buildings are intentionally located along the Garden State Parkway right-of-way in order to minimize the view corridor from Red Hill Road, maximize the setbacks to the adjacent residential agricultural properties. The medical office use requires one parking space for every 150 square feet of gross floor area, thus being required 198 parking spaces. Now, on the plan that was submitted, you would physically count 191 9x18 parking spaces proposed. Within that number are 8 electric vehicle or EV spaces, and that ordinance allows those spaces to count for 2, thus bringing the total proposed parking to 199 spaces and meeting the requirement. Also within that quantity are 6 ADA spaces. Finally, a refuse and recycling enclosure is provided toward the rear of the site. No, no problem.
I just wanted to clarify, parking is treated the same way as the standards. The parking, there is no overall parking requirement for this use. The parking requirement for medical offices is specific to the medical zone, the 35 overlay zone, and maybe one or two others that are in this use. So this, the board will evaluate parking in the overall use and everything on the site. I'm sure the traffic engineer will address how parking needs here. But I just want the board to know that variance, there is no direct standard here for variance relief, even though they do need it. Variance relief not necessarily. So just want to clarify that the parking is suggested. It's the reference in other zones, not in this one.
Appreciate it.
No, because you're approving a specific plan. No. So these are just, we're really just talking like technical in terms of like the notice requirements, in terms of, the actual variances that are required. But when you have a D1 use variance in front of you, whether it's bifurcated or not, you are approving what they are proposing. And that may include a similar concept plan to this. So for example, the resolution will state, if it were to be approved, and any kind of situation would say that this square footage and this amount of parking spaces. So they cannot just come back. If this were to be approved, they could not come back with anything and say, well, we don't need a variance. Because you're approving the plan, the conceptual plan that is in front of you for this specific use. It's not just medical office, it is this conceptual medical office building on this property.
Much more time.
5 to 10?
5 to 10? If you can do it 5 minutes, you got it.
And if you want, we're coming back either way, so I.
I think if we're coming back either way, it's a logical pausing point.
Okay, so pretty strict with that, like you said, here, volunteers, you guys are also out there, and you don't want to be here until 1 o'clock. So many years ago, our meeting started at 8, we used to go to 10, 11, now we switched them to 7. 9 o'clock is the reasonable time. So, with that being said, David, we look at his date, this is what we carry this to. Do you have anything that you could tell us, what they were suggesting?
November 27th would be the first.
27?
That's the day before.
You don't have to take it, that's just our next date, otherwise it's
That's the day before Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
They won't have.
In November, it's hard, usually you move it to that last. This year's Thanksgiving is on the last possible day, so the typical pattern.
Our concern with that night is we probably won't have a full board. It's a tough night to have a meeting. And I usually cook, so it makes it more difficult.
Kids, my wife would kill me.
Not a good night for me.
Will they be ready for September 18th?
Yeah, we're ready now.
Sal, I can't do that night.
I'm away too.
Yeah.
I'm on vacation.
Yeah, I can't.
So,
December 4th then.
you want December 4th?
That's enough time for all of us to adjust our schedule.
Yeah, we'll make it up.
I don't know, what about, what'd you say about November 6th, you skipped it? We have something else on there, it's not on the plan.
So we'll take December 4th, but Courtney, if something opens up, we'll renotice and come back if possible.
I would advise that I am away that week.
December 4th? Well, we could, if we take September, we could finish engineering.
But you're not here.
Are you available September 18th?
Yes, and to your point, if it's simply engineering,
Can we just do the engineering on September 18th, get him finished, get all the questions in, and I'll have someone from my office cover the meeting?
It's up, what do you, no problem with us. Okay, so we're doing 18th.
You're on vacation.
You're on conflict?
I have, yes, major conflict, 2-year hearing.
Which one?
All the way in north in Mawa.
What date?
On the 18th of September. I cannot be here.
First time.
Full due respect, I mean, I'm the applicant.
Yeah, I think,
Do you have anybody in your office?
and it's,
As I'm sitting here, I don't know.
and it's only limited to the one expert. It's not like we won't be doing traffic or planning. It would just be engineering.
If the board's inclined, we can reserve your time to question, obviously, when we come back. And you can watch it on.
That's more than fair. That way, yes, that way the applicant would be limited on the 18th just to direct the engineer. We reserve our cross to a future meeting. I think that's appropriate.
And the balance of the public can ask questions they may too.
Okay, so the 18th.
So yeah, please announce that no one will receive further notice, so there's no confusion.
No, we got it now.
Sorry. No further notice.
Engineer only.
And 7 p.m., correct? Thank you. Till 9.
Chairman, just one other thing, I would just respectfully ask that to the extent that the applicant is going to be submitting additional materials.
We'll provide you copies.
Then just give us copies when they get submitted.
Will do.
And we heard some things that the public and board talked about, could be future concerns, so you may want to talk with your, see if they want to maybe just something that might help.
Yeah, and then,
Based on our concerns that some of the board members said.
yeah, and you did ask for a couple of specific exhibits, which we'll get in as quickly as possible. 10 days before is the 8th, which is, and you wanted to see the site triangle, you wanted to see the site triangle. So we'll provide that as fast as possible. Yeah, and we'll speak about it. Okay. Thank you.
did we also want to reserve December 4th?
Yeah, can we keep December 4th?
Hold on. What'd you say?
And we look for the rest of the application.
Yeah.
But you'll announce, assuming that works, we'll have to announce that September 18th. Thank you. Sorry.
So we're keeping the 4th on our calendar.
As you Simon, keep the 4th open of December, it may be the next meeting after this meeting.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that.
Nothing.
Gonna jump in and say, if we got the whole night on the 18th, let me go too, especially since he won't be here. But, Michael, I gotta ask you, the county's master plan is 40% of the